What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be back to work on our 1966 Ford Mustang Restomod project. If you guys watched our latest video, we did do the custom frame rails in the front. Now we're going to be working on getting the suspension lined up perfectly. And we do have another Mustang over there. And I got a pretty cool idea how we're going to line this suspension up using that Mustang. So let's go ahead and check out that Mustang. So here's the Mustang we're going to be using for mock-up purposes. And as you can see under here, we have two control arms. And what we're going to do is grab our suspension from our parts car and slap it on here. And then we're going to weld this metal brace along here. And what that's going to do is when we take the suspension off, both of these control arms are going to be in the perfect area, exactly how they need to be. All we have to do is adjust the height a little bit, but that is going to be really simple. That's easy tape measurement. So let's go ahead and lower this car down, get this wheel off, and put our old suspension on here. This front suspension off. Now let's go ahead and grab ours and bring it over here. So we got the suspension over here, and look at this. This is the Ford Performance package control arm. It has like a swivel in here, and then as you see, ours, the stock one, is just a rubber bushing in there. So we'll definitely be upgrading to the Ford Performance pack. Well, let's go ahead and get this on here. So we got the suspension back on the car. Now we can go ahead and lift it up in the air. We'll do some prep work, weld it up, and then we can take it back off and line it up on our 66 Mustang. So now that we have both control arms welded together, let's go ahead and take these control arms off, and we'll put the original suspension back on the car. So we got the car all back together, as you can see, and I want to give a big shout out to my good friend DannyTv. He has a YouTube channel also, so make sure you check him out. And not a lot of people out there would let you borrow their 2017 Ford Mustang that is supercharged. I mean, I could have just ripped that supercharger out and slapped it on mine and he would have never known. But go ahead and check out his channel. Let's get back to work on the 1966. So we got the front suspension just mocked up, and this is basically how it's going to sit right here. Now that we have this plate welded in, it's going to show us exactly where we need to put the brackets, which is pretty cool that we were able to do that. And I wanted to address some of the comments. A lot of you guys were saying that this car might be a little bit too heavy, so we might end up go ahead and cutting this frame bar right here instead of extending it all the way, and we'll save some weight right there and probably build everything else out of aluminum if we can. But honestly, I don't think weight will be a problem because this car is already really light. The body of this car, we literally picked it up with two people, and we kind of want some weight to the car so we can actually drive it. Even my Hellcat weighing 4,300 pounds, that thing is super fast. I mean, it doesn't handle the best, but it is still drivable. So we will be continuing using these frame rails right here, even though a lot of people said they might not work, but we're just gonna try it because I'm all for learning new stuff and using my own ideas. Because if you think about it, anybody who's ever started a car company like Henry Ford, they obviously didn't own a car company before. They obviously had to learn, and that's basically what I'm trying to do. This has been a dream of mine to build my own custom car, so I'm going to do it exactly how I want to do it. I will take a lot of advice from you guys, so keep dropping those comments. Now let's come to the back and see what we have to do. We need to go ahead and get this rear suspension thrown under the car so we can get the mock-up ready for the entire frame. So we got got the rear subframe back underneath the car. Now we need to go ahead and somehow prop it up in the air because it is sitting kind of too low. And what we need to do is basically get these suspension points right here basically perfectly aligned. So let's go ahead and throw something under there, probably a jack or something, and lift it up in the air. So I got a little scissor jack under there and it works amazing. We just put a little socket on there and we can lift it up and adjust it everywhere we need. Now let's go ahead and drop this drive shaft on and see how everything is lining up. So we went ahead and installed the drive shaft. We actually added this little metal plate just to hold it up in the air so we can get everything nice and level. We want to make sure all the pinion angles are correct, and it's also going to help us align the subframe in the rear, make sure everything is sitting properly. And we do want to use the factory one just so if we do break it or something, we can just go ahead and swap a new one in. We won't have to wait for another custom one, but this one is damaged right here, so we will be getting a new one. Now let's continue. We have to keep on lining everything up, make sure the motor is sitting perfectly in the center, and make sure the rear suspension is sitting perfectly in the center. So we got everything nice and lined up with the engine and the rear subframe. Everything is looking pretty good. Now we need to go ahead and start making this frame rail right here. What we have to do is basically cut this rail and move it down like kind of at an angle so then it can come like this, because this is where the passenger compartment is. So let's go ahead and do some measurements and cut this up. Perfect. Well, our bandsaw kind of failed on us, and if you look right here, the cut is going a little bit sideways, so we're gonna go back to our grinder and we're just gonna have to take the long route. So let's go ahead and cut this up. We got the first side cut. Now we need to get the other frame rail off and trace this triangle right under there so we get the exact same thing on both sides. So we got the template basically on the other frame rail. Now we need to go ahead and clean all this up. Kind of need to bevel the edge so when we weld it, we get a nice thick bead inside there, and then when we grind it down, it's nice and flush. So let's go ahead and grind it down. It's nice and beveled on this piece. Now it's time to just go ahead and fold it together. So I got it nice and bent in, and check this out. I just folded it in with my hand. And then once we get this other one nice and cut, we'll put them both together and fold them together so we get the same exact bend on each one, and then we'll go ahead and tack it and probably fully weld them up. Both frame rails stacked on top of each other, and as you can see, they're actually perfect. Now all we have to do is bring the welder over here, pull them both together, and weld them up. So we got both frame rails nice and lined up on this jig right here, where we kind of just clamped it down to the frame really nice and tight. And we also grabbed this jack and lifted it up just to get the clearances pretty tight. Now we're gonna go ahead and weld it up. Got both frame rails done, and we went ahead and grinded it up, and it turned out pretty good. Although we did have to get a new connector for the welder because it was set at 120, so we bumped it up to 220, so the welds will be looking a little bit better than that. But now let's go ahead and put these frame rails back on the car and keep doing some measurements, because we have to do the member that goes in the center. So let's go ahead and get these things back on the car. So we have both frame rails on in the front. Now we need to go ahead and start building the frame rails all the way back. It does line up really good right here, especially the passenger compartment is gonna be perfect. The angle was perfect on that. So let's go ahead and build the frame rails all the way back. Frame rail cut, and check out that gap right there. It is perfect all the way through. All we're gonna have to do is bevel that edge and give it a nice weld. But now let's go ahead and replicate this cut onto the left side, and that's what we're doing. We're just replicating everything from one side to this side, so they'll be exactly the same. So let's go ahead and replicate the cut for this side. So we got both frame rails built, and we also went ahead and grinded it down with the flap disc, and they're both exactly perfect. Now let's go ahead and put these things back on the car, and then we can keep working our way backwards. We do have this one frame rail right here, which we probably may be welding it in back there, but we still have to figure out how we're gonna do the rear suspension. So let's get these front frame rails on, and we're also going to build the front cross member that goes across here. So that's gonna be a wrap for today's video. We got a lot of work done on the car. We went ahead and lined up this rail. We have that rail on. There's obviously a lot more prepping and a lot more cutting that has to be done. And we also need to buy some more metal because I did mess up a lot of metal off of camera. And I'm trying to get this all perfect. I'm not trying to rush the frame build on this car. I want to actually get this car done so I can daily drive it and not just build it for YouTube and then end up scrapping the car. And we also, in the next episode, will be building the shock tower mounts right here. And we have to get some more tubing. We're going to try to do some tubing here and some more aluminum up front to keep the weight down. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and don't forget to turn on your post notifications. And also follow me on Instagram at VTuned.